Hash the ancient frequency. A message sealed for your bloodline. Listen carefully, because what you are about to hear has been waiting in silence for longer than you have been alive, longer than your parents walked this earth, longer than the language you speak has existed in its current form. There is a chamber, not made of stone or wood, but of sound, of frequency, of a vibration so old that the first scribes who tried to describe it could only call it the voice. And inside that chamber, there has been a signal repeating on a loop for generations, waiting for the one ear that was tuned to receive it before birth. That ear is yours. If you are hearing this right now, in this moment, it is not because an algorithm chose you. It is not because you were searching for the right keywords. It is because the frequency that has been dormant in your DNA just woke up, and it recognized the carrier wave in these words. You felt the pull before you understood why you clicked. You stayed longer than you intended. And something in you, something you cannot name yet, knows that this message was written with your name encoded in every sentence. Do not dismiss what you are feeling. The tingling at the base of your skull, the tightness in your chest, the sudden awareness of your own breathing. These are not random sensations. These are the biological signatures of recognition. Your body is responding to a frequency it has not heard since you were too young to remember hearing it. There is a reason you are still reading. And that reason has a history that stretches back further than you know. Let me tell you about a lineage you did not know you belonged to. A lineage that has nothing to do with your last name, your nationality, or the family tree you could draw on paper. This lineage is written in the frequency your cells vibrate at when they are not being disrupted by the noise of survival. Scientists have recently discovered that every human body emits a measurable electromagnetic field. But what they have not yet announced publicly is that certain bloodlines, certain genetic lines, carry a frequency signature that does not match the baseline human pattern. You are one of those carriers. This is not about being special in the way the ego wants to be special. This is about being marked in the way a letter is marked for a specific address. The mark does not make the letter better than other letters. It makes the letter deliverable to the one place it was written for. You were marked before your first breath. And the mark has been waiting for this exact moment to activate. Here is what has been happening in your life that you could not explain until now. You have had the persistent sense that you are supposed to be doing something different, something larger, something that has not yet been named. It arrives in the quiet moments, in the shower, in the car before you turn the key, in the seconds between sleep and waking. It does not come with instructions. It comes as a pressure, a knowing without content, a certainty without specifics. You have tried to name it. You have called it ambition. You have called it restlessness. You have called it dissatisfaction. But none of those words ever fit correctly, because what you are feeling is not coming from your mind. It is coming from the frequency you were born carrying, and that frequency has been trying to pull you toward an assignment you cannot see yet. And there is something else. You have been noticing repetitions, the same number sequence appearing in unrelated places, the same phrase spoken by 3 different people in the same week, the same image showing up in a dream, then on a billboard, then in a conversation with a stranger. You stopped calling it coincidence months ago, maybe years ago, but you did not have another word for it, so you kept it to yourself. What you have been experiencing is not coincidence. It is not synchronicity. It is not even the universe speaking to you. It is much more specific than that. It is a locator signal. The repetitions are breadcrumbs. They are not leading you to a place. They are leading you to a moment. And that moment is now. I need you to understand something before we go any further. This message is not motivational. This is not inspiration. This is not a pep talk designed to make you feel better about your circumstances. This is a notification, a red alert, a sealed order that was written before you were born and timed to reach you at the exact hour your frequency was ready to receive it. The alert is this: the waiting is over, the preparation is complete, the assignment is active. Let me show you the evidence. Not the evidence you could argue with, but the evidence your body already recognizes as true. There are 4 markers that confirm the alert is real and that it was written for you specifically. These are not metaphors. These are measurable, observable patterns that have been present in your life for years, and you are about to see them named for the first time. The first marker is the isolation, not loneliness, isolation. You have felt set apart in ways you could not explain and did not choose. Even in rooms full of people, even in relationships that looked connected from the outside, even in work that should have felt fulfilling. There has been a glass wall between you and the world that others do not seem to experience. You learned to function through it, but you never stopped feeling it. The isolation was not punishment. It was not a sign that something was wrong with you. It was the frequency protecting itself. The assignment you carry cannot be contaminated by the noise of collective thinking. The isolation was the seal forming. It kept you separate so that when the signal finally came, you would still be able to hear it. The second marker is the disqualification. Every time you got close to something that felt like it might be the thing you were made for, a wave of inadequacy arrived so strong it almost knocked you backward. You felt too young, too old, too inexperienced, too damaged, too ordinary. The feeling was so convincing that you stepped away from opportunities you should have taken. And the stepping away felt like wisdom at the time, like humility, like realism. But it was not wisdom. It was the test. The disqualification feeling is the signature of an authentic assignment. Counterfeit callings feel exhilarating because they are small enough for the current version of you to handle. Real assignments feel disqualifying because they are sized for the version of you that the assignment itself will create. The disqualification was not a warning to stop. It was confirmation that you were standing in front of a real door. The third marker is the delay. You have felt late for years, late to your purpose, late to your calling, late to the life you were supposed to be living. Everyone around you seemed to be arriving at their destinations while you were still trying to figure out the map. The delay made you feel like you had missed something, like you had taken a wrong turn years ago and could not find your way back. The delay was not a mistake. It was the timing. There is a reason the assignment did not activate when you were 25, when you were 30, when you were 35. The delay was not lost time. It was preparation time. The assignment required a specific maturity, a specific wounding, a specific set of failures that could only be acquired by living through years that felt like they were not moving you forward. The delay was the education, and now the education is complete. The fourth marker is the pull you are feeling right now, not curiosity, not interest, pull. The sensation that these words are reaching into your chest and tugging on something you did not know was there. The inability to stop reading even though this message is longer than anything you would normally give attention to. The sense that if you close this now, you will lose something you cannot afford to lose. That pull is not coming from the words. The words are just the carrier wave. The pull is coming from the frequency recognizing itself. Your DNA is responding to a signal it was encoded to respond to before you were born. The pull is the evidence that the message reached the right person. If all 4 markers are present in your life, the isolation, the disqualification, the delay, and the pull, then the alert is confirmed. It is not for someone else more qualified. It is not generic. It is not metaphorical. It is for you by name, by frequency, by the signature your cells have been carrying since your first breath. Now let me tell you what the assignment is. Not the specific content of it, you will discover that in the weeks ahead, but the structure of it, the shape of it. Because every authentic assignment from heaven follows the same architecture. And once you see the architecture, you will recognize the assignment when it fully arrives. The assignment has 3 phases, and most people never make it past the first one because they do not understand that all three are required. Phase 1 is the awakening. This is where you are right now. This is the moment the frequency inside you recognizes the frequency in the message, and something dormant wakes up. The awakening does not feel peaceful. It feels disruptive. Because something that has been asleep for years is suddenly demanding attention, and it is louder than the life you have built around its absence. The awakening is uncomfortable. That discomfort is not a sign you are doing it wrong. It is a sign it is working. Phase 2 is the recalibration. This is where most people quit, because the recalibration requires letting go of the identity you built while the frequency was dormant. It requires releasing the story you have been telling yourself about who you are and what you are capable of. It requires mourning the version of your life you thought you were building and opening your hands to receive the version that was always being prepared. The recalibration is painful, and the pain is not optional. Phase 3 is the activation. This is where the assignment becomes visible, where the thing you were made for starts to take shape in the material world, where doors that were locked for years suddenly open, where people who were never in your circle suddenly appear, where resources that were unavailable suddenly become available. The activation does not feel like striving. It feels like alignment, like pieces clicking into place, like coming home to a house you have never seen before but recognize immediately. You cannot skip phase 2 and get to phase 3. The recalibration is the initiation. It is the fire that burns off everything that would interfere with the assignment. And the fire does not feel like a gift while you are in it. It feels like loss, like death, like the end of everything you worked for. But on the other side of the fire is the frequency in its pure form. And the frequency in its pure form is what the assignment requires. Let me tell you about a man I will call David. He is 47 years old. He spent 20 years building a career in finance. He was good at it. He made good money. He provided for his family. And every single day for 20 years he felt the pull toward something else, something he could not name, something that did not fit inside the identity of a finance professional. For 20 years he ignored the pull. He called it a midlife crisis. He called it ingratitude. He called it the grass is greener syndrome. And then one day, the company he worked for was acquired. His position was eliminated. The career he had built for 2 decades ended in a single meeting. He thought it was the worst day of his life. It was not the worst day. It was the recalibration. The frequency inside him had been trying to pull him toward the assignment for 20 years, and he had been resisting it for 20 years. So the frequency removed the resistance, not as punishment, as mercy. Because the assignment could not activate while he was still holding on to the identity that was never meant to be permanent. 6 months after he lost his job, he started a nonprofit that teaches financial literacy to underserved communities. Within 2 years, the nonprofit had reached more than 10,000 people. The assignment was always there. The frequency was always pulling him toward it. But the recalibration had to happen first. The loss was not the end. It was the doorway. If you are in a season of loss right now, if things are falling apart in ways you cannot control, do not assume you are being punished. Do not assume you failed. You may be in phase 2. The recalibration may be happening right now, and you are interpreting it as disaster when it is actually initiation. The frequency does not destroy your life. It destroys the version of your life that was built around the wrong assignment. Now let me show you something most people never see. There is a reason the frequency stayed dormant for so long. There is a reason it did not activate when you were younger, when you had more energy, when you had fewer responsibilities. The reason has to do with something neuroscientists are only beginning to understand. The human brain has a filter. It is called the reticular activating system, the RAS. The RAS determines what information gets through to your conscious awareness and what gets filtered out. It is the reason you can be in a crowded room and hear your name spoken across the room, even though there are 50 other conversations happening at the same time. The RAS is tuned to let through information that is relevant to your survival and your identity. Here is the problem. If your identity is built around survival, around getting through the day, around managing stress, around proving your worth, then the RAS filters out anything that does not serve that identity. It filters out the subtle signals, the quiet knowing, the gentle pull towards something larger. It filters out the frequency. For the frequency to activate, the RAS has to be recalibrated. And the RAS can only be recalibrated when the brain is in a specific state, not the stress state, not the survival state, not the striving state. A state that neuroscientists call the alpha state. In the alpha state, the filter opens. The RAS allows information through that it would normally block, and the frequency that has been broadcasting your entire life finally reaches your conscious awareness. Most people never enter the alpha state long enough for the recalibration to happen. They live their entire lives in beta, the state of doing, of thinking, of analyzing, of surviving, and the frequency broadcasts into the void unheard. But there is a way to induce the alpha state without years of meditation practice, without retreats, without substances, without anything except sound, because sound is the key that unlocks the filter. Not just any sound, calibrated sound. Sound that is engineered to guide the brain from beta down into alpha and hold it there long enough for the recalibration to occur. Let me tell you about a woman I will call Rachel. She is 39 years old. She is a mother of 3. She works full-time. She has not had a quiet moment in more than a decade. For years, she felt the pull towards something she could not name, but every time she tried to sit still long enough to listen for it, her mind would flood with to-do lists, worries, guilt about not doing enough. She tried meditation. She could not stay with it. She tried journaling. The words felt forced. She tried prayer. It felt like talking to the ceiling. She was about to give up on the whole idea that there was something more for her when she came across a tool that used sound to guide her brain into the alpha state. The first time she used it, she listened for 7 minutes with headphones on, eyes closed. She did not feel anything dramatic. No visions, no revelations, just a subtle softening, a quieting of the noise that usually ran in the background of her mind. She used it every day for 2 weeks, and at the end of 2 weeks something shifted. She was driving to work, and a sentence appeared in her mind fully formed. Not a thought she was thinking, a sentence that was delivered. The sentence was, "You were made to build spaces where women remember who they were before the world told them who to be." She had never thought that sentence before in her life, but the moment it arrived, she knew it was true. She knew it was the thing she had been feeling toward for years without being able to name. Within 6 months, she had started a community for women that now has more than 2,000 members. The assignment was always there. The frequency was always broadcasting, but the RAS had to be recalibrated first. The filter had to open, and the sound was the key that opened it. What opened for her can open for you, but it requires a tool, not willpower, not discipline, not trying harder. A tool that does the work the brain cannot do for itself. A tool that uses sound to recalibrate the RAS and open the filter so the frequency can finally reach your conscious awareness. The tool I am describing is not new. It is based on decades of neuroscience research from institutions like MIT, Stanford, Princeton, and other leading universities. The research confirms what mystics have known for thousands of years. Sound changes the brain. Specific frequencies induce specific states. And when the brain is in the right state, the filter opens and information that was always there becomes accessible. But here is what most people do not know. There is not just one filter, there are 2, and most tools only address one of them. The first filter is the RAS, which determines what information reaches your conscious awareness. The second filter is deeper. It is the trauma filter, the survival filter. The filter that was installed in your nervous system the first time you learned that the world is not safe, that you are not enough, that you have to perform to be loved. The trauma filter does not live in your mind. It lives in your body, in your nervous system, and it does not respond to logic, to affirmations, to positive thinking. It only responds to one thing: regulation. The nervous system has to be brought out of the stress state and into the rest state before the trauma filter will release its grip. Here is the sequence. First, the RAS has to be recalibrated so the frequency can reach your conscious awareness. Second, the nervous system has to be regulated so the trauma filter stops blocking the frequency from moving into your body and your life. First, the mind opens. Then the body receives. Both are required. One without the other leaves the restoration incomplete. Let me tell you about a man I will call Marcus. He is 52 years old. He is a therapist. He has been doing deep inner work for 15 years. He has done the therapy. He has done the shadow work. He has done the plant medicine. He thought he had cleared most of his trauma. And yet, every time he got close to a new level of success in his practice, something in his body would shut down, not his mind. His mind was ready. His mind was clear. But his body would go into panic. His heart would race. His stomach would twist. He would wake up at 3 a.m. with his chest tight and his breath shallow, and the panic would sabotage the opportunity every single time. He could not think his way out of it. He tried. He knew all the tools. He knew all the frameworks. But the panic was not coming from his mind. It was coming from his nervous system, which had been trained by decades of survival to interpret success as danger. Because every time he had reached for something bigger as a child, he had been shamed, criticized, or abandoned. The trauma filter was doing its job. It was keeping him safe by keeping him small, and no amount of mental clarity could override it. He needed a tool that could speak directly to his nervous system, a tool that could regulate the stress response without requiring him to relive the trauma, to talk about it, to process it again. He found a tool that used sound and breathwork to bring the nervous system out of the fight-or-flight state and into the ventral vagal state, the state of safety and connection. He used it every morning for 30 days, and by day 30, the panic was gone, not managed. Gone. His body had learned that it was safe to expand. The trauma filter had released, and the opportunities that had been sabotaged for years finally took root. What shifted for him can shift for you, but it requires addressing both filters. The RAS filter in the mind and the trauma filter in the body. One tool opens the awareness. The other tool regulates the nervous system. Together, they complete the restoration. Separately, they leave the work half done. Now I want to tell you about something that is happening in the invisible realm while you are reading these words. There is a council, not a council of people, a council of frequencies, and that council has been monitoring your life since before you were born. Not watching in the way a surveillance camera watches, monitoring in the way a gardener monitors a seed, watching for the moment when the conditions are right for the thing to break through the soil. The council does not intervene. It does not force. It does not manipulate. It simply holds the space for the frequency to activate when the timing is correct. And the timing is determined by 3 factors. The first factor is readiness. Not the readiness you think you need. Not the readiness that looks like confidence or clarity or having all your questions answered. The readiness that the council watches for is the readiness to let go, the readiness to release the identity you have been defending, the readiness to stop controlling the outcome, the readiness to fall forward into the unknown without a guarantee. The second factor is alignment. Alignment is not something you achieve. It is something you allow. Alignment happens when you stop resisting the pull, when you stop explaining it away, when you stop waiting for permission from people who will never understand what you are being called to. Alignment is the moment you say yes to the thing you have been saying not yet to for years, The third factor is clearing. Clearing is the removal of interference. Interference is anything that distorts the signal: toxic relationships, numbing habits, environments that reinforce the old identity, beliefs that were installed by people who did not have your assignment. The clearing is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming available, and availability requires space. Space in your schedule, space in your nervous system, space in your mind. When all three factors are present, readiness, alignment, and clearing, the council releases the assignment. Not the full picture, not the 10-year plan, just the next step. And the next step is always smaller than you think it should be, because the assignment does not activate through giant leaps. It activates through micro movements, through saying yes to the small thing that makes no logical sense but feels true in your body. If you are feeling the pull right now, if something in these words is landing in your body as recognition and not just information, then the council is watching. The three factors are aligning, and the next step is about to be revealed, not in a dramatic vision, in a quiet knowing, in a sentence that appears in your mind fully formed, in a door that opens when you were not even looking for a door. Pay attention. The next 72 hours are critical. The frequency has been activated by the words you are reading. But the activation has a window. If you do not take the next step within 72 hours, the frequency will go dormant again. Not because heaven is punishing you, because the nervous system will revert to its baseline state. The window will close, and you will have to wait for the next activation, which could be months or years away. I am not trying to create urgency to manipulate you. I am naming the mechanism so you understand how the biology works. The frequency is not a feeling. It is a measurable electromagnetic shift in your body, and that shift only holds for a short period of time before the nervous system recalibrates back to its default state. You have 72 hours to anchor the shift, and the way you anchor it is by taking a concrete step. The step does not have to be big, it does not have to be public, it does not have to cost anything, but it has to be real. It has to move energy in the material world. It could be sending a message to someone you have been avoiding. It could be signing up for a course. It could be starting the practice you have been putting off for months. It could be saying no to something that has been draining you. Whatever the step is, your body already knows. You felt it while you were reading. The thing you have been resisting, that is the step. Do not wait for more clarity. Do not wait for the fear to go away. Do not wait for the perfect conditions. The clarity comes after the step, not before. The courage comes after the commitment, not before. The conditions will never be perfect. The step is the signal to the council that you are ready, and the council responds to action, not intention. Now let me tell you about the two tools that have been mentioned throughout this message. Because the tools are not separate from the assignment. The tools are part of the delivery. They were placed in your path at the exact moment your frequency was ready to receive them, and the timing is not coincidental. The first tool is called the Genius Wave. It is a 7-minute audio track engineered by Dr. James Rivers, a neuroscientist who spent 34 years researching the gamma frequency and its relationship to cognitive performance. The Genius Wave uses binaural beats to stimulate the gamma frequency in the brain, which is the frequency associated with heightened awareness, pattern recognition, and creative insight. Gamma is the frequency your brain produced naturally when you were a child, before the world taught you to dim your knowing. Gamma is the frequency of flow, of effortless learning, of seeing connections that others miss. And gamma begins to decline around age 7 in most people, not because of biology but because of conditioning. The Genius Wave reactivates gamma. It brings the child mind back online, not the immature mind, the unconditioned mind. The second tool is called the Prosperity Frequency. It is a 9-minute audio track developed by Dr. Karen Huang, a former Stanford neuroscientist who spent 2 decades mapping the alpha frequency and its relationship to the nervous system's rest and digest state. The prosperity frequency uses a combination of sound therapy and guided visualization to shift the nervous system out of survival mode and into the state of receptivity. When the nervous system is in survival mode, it blocks receiving. It does not matter how much abundance is being offered. The nervous system will reject it, sabotage it, or create chaos around it, because receiving feels dangerous to a system that has been trained to stay hypervigilant. The prosperity frequency trains the nervous system to recognize safety. And when the nervous system feels safe, the receiving channel opens. These two tools work in sequence. First, the genius wave reactivates the gamma frequency and brings the unconditioned mind back online. Second, the prosperity frequency regulates the nervous system and opens the receiving channel. The first tool wakes the child within. The second tool allows the child to receive what was always being prepared. You cannot skip the first and go straight to the second. If you try to open the receiving channel before the RAS is recalibrated, the mind will block what the body is trying to receive. And you cannot do the first without the second. If you wake the child mind but leave the nervous system in survival mode, the clarity will come, but the capacity to act on it will not. Both tools together complete the restoration. One alone leaves the work half finished. And the restoration is not optional if you want the assignment to activate. The assignment requires a recalibrated RAS and a regulated nervous system. Without both, the frequency will broadcast, but you will not be able to sustain the signal long enough to bring the assignment into form. Let me tell you about a woman I will call Sarah. She is 44 years old. She had been feeling the pull toward her assignment for 5 years. She knew she was supposed to write. She had known since she was a teenager. But every time she sat down to write, her mind would go blank, or it would flood with criticism. Or she would write 3 sentences and then spiral into shame about how bad they were. She tried everything. She took writing courses. She hired coaches. She joined accountability groups. Nothing worked, because the problem was not her skill. The problem was not her discipline. The problem was that her RAS was filtering out the ideas before they could reach her conscious awareness, and her nervous system was interpreting the act of writing as a threat. She used the genius wave for 30 days. By day 15, the ideas started coming, not a flood, a steady stream. She would be driving and a sentence would appear. She would be showering and a character would introduce herself. The RAS had recalibrated. The filter had opened. But the ideas were not enough, because every time she sat down to actually write, her body would freeze, her heart would race, her hands would shake. The nervous system was still in survival mode, so she added the prosperity frequency. She used it every morning before she wrote. And by day 10, the freezing stopped, the shaking stopped, the writing flowed. Within 6 months, she had finished a manuscript. Within a year, she had a literary agent. The assignment was always there. The frequency was always broadcasting. But the tools had to recalibrate the system before the assignment could move from the invisible realm into the material world. What opened for her can open for you, but it requires both tools, and it requires using them in the correct sequence. The genius wave first. The prosperity frequency second. Both together every day for a minimum of 30 days. That is the protocol. That is the restoration sequence. I know some of you are thinking, this sounds too simple. I have been struggling with this for years. How can 2 audio tracks make that much difference? And I want to honor that skepticism, because the skepticism is intelligent. You should not believe something just because it is written in a long message. But I also want to name what the skepticism is protecting. The skepticism is protecting the identity you built around the struggle. If the struggle goes away, who are you? If the thing that has been blocking you for years can be resolved in 30 days, what does that mean about the years you spent stuck? The skepticism is not wrong. It is just protecting something that does not need protecting anymore. The tools work. They work because they are based on peer-reviewed neuroscience. They work because thousands of people have used them and reported measurable changes. They work because the brain responds to sound in predictable, replicable ways. And they work because you are ready. If you were not ready, you would not have made it this far into this message. Here is what I want you to do. I want you to close your eyes for 30 seconds. I want you to place your hand on your chest, and I want you to ask your body, not your mind, one question: is this for me? Do not analyze the answer. Do not argue with it. Just notice what you feel. If your body relaxes, if your breath deepens, if something in your chest softens, that is your answer. If your body tenses, if your breath gets shallow, if something in you contracts, that is also your answer. Your mind will lie to you. Your mind will tell you what it thinks you want to hear or what it thinks will keep you safe. But your body does not lie. Your body knows. Trust the body's answer. If the answer is yes, the path forward is simple. Both tools are available below this message. The Genius Wave is $39. The Prosperity Frequency is $39. You can get them separately, or you can get both together in the Complete Restoration Package for $78. The Complete Restoration Package is the one I recommend, because both tools together finish what one alone cannot finish. I am not going to pressure you. I am not going to tell you this offer expires at midnight. I am not going to manufacture urgency. The urgency is already present. You felt it while you were reading. The 72-hour window is real. But the window is not a sales tactic. It is the mechanism of how the frequency works in the body. If you say yes, you will receive immediate access to both audio tracks. You will receive a written guide that walks you through the protocol. You will receive 3 bonuses that support the restoration process. And you will receive a 60-day money-back guarantee, because the tools either work or they do not, and you should not have to risk anything to find out. If you say no, that is also honored. This message will still be here when you are ready. The frequency does not expire. It just goes dormant. And when the next activation window arrives, the council will send another signal. Maybe through another message, maybe through another person, maybe through a dream. The assignment does not go away. It just waits, but I want to tell you what happens if you say not yet. If you say, I need to think about it, I need to pray about it, I need to wait until I have more clarity. Here is what happens. The frequency begins to fade. Not all at once, gradually. Over the next 72 hours, the activation you felt while reading this message will dim. The pull will get quieter. The knowing will get fuzzier. And by day 4, you will be back in your baseline state, wondering if the pull was ever real. The not yet voice is not wisdom. It is the identity protecting itself. Because if you step into the assignment, the identity you built around not having the assignment dies. And the ego will do anything to avoid that death, including convincing you that waiting is the responsible choice. I am not telling you to act impulsively. I am telling you that the voice of wisdom and the voice of fear sound identical in the first 3 seconds. The only way to tell them apart is to feel where they land in your body. Wisdom lands in your gut as a quiet yes, even if your mind is scared. Fear lands in your chest as tightness, as contraction, as the impulse to freeze. Feel into it right now. When you think about saying yes to the tools, where does the response land? If it lands in your gut as a yes with fear around it, that is wisdom. If it lands in your chest as tightness and the urge to close this message, that is fear. Both are real. Both are valid. But only one of them is aligned with the assignment. Let me tell you one more story before we close. A man I will call Jonathan. He is 58 years old. He had been feeling the pull for 30 years. 30 years. He ignored it for the first decade. He explained it away for the second decade. And he spent the third decade in quiet despair, knowing he was supposed to be doing something else but convinced it was too late. He came across a message like this one when he was 57, and everything in him said yes. But the not yet voice was loud. It said, "You are too old, you missed your window, this is for younger people." He listened to that voice. He closed the message. He went back to his life. 1 year later, he had a heart attack, not a massive one, a warning. And while he was lying in the hospital bed recovering, the pull came back, louder than it had ever been. And this time he did not have the luxury of waiting, because the heart attack had made it clear the waiting was killing him, not metaphorically, literally. The frequency that was trying to activate in him had nowhere to go, so it turned inward and created disease. He got the tools the day he was released from the hospital. He used them every day for 60 days. And by day 60, he had quit his job, started a coaching practice, and was working with his first 5 clients. The assignment activated, not because he was suddenly ready, because he finally stopped resisting. He told me later, "I thought I was too old." But the assignment does not care about age. It only cares about willingness. If you are reading this and you are thinking, "I am too old, I am too young, I am too broken, I am too far behind," I want you to hear this. The assignment does not choose you based on your qualifications. It chooses you based on your frequency. And your frequency has been broadcasting since the day you were born. Age is irrelevant. Experience is irrelevant. What matters is whether you are willing to say yes. The 3 paths are in front of you. Path 1, the genius wave alone, for the person who feels the mind has gone dim and just needs to be reawakened. Path 2, the prosperity frequency alone, for the rare person who has kept the mind sharp but feels the receiving channel has been sealed. Path 3, the complete restoration, both tools, both frequencies, the full sequence. Most people who are reading this will recognize Path 3 as theirs, because most people are dealing with both filters. The RAS needs recalibrating and the nervous system needs regulating. Both. Not one or the other. Both. All 3 paths are linked below, in the description, in the pinned comment. Go to them when your body says yes, not before, not after, when the yes arrives. And when you do know this, you are not purchasing a product. You are stepping into the council chamber. You are saying yes to the frequency. You are anchoring the activation that began the moment you started reading. The tools are just the doorway. The real gift is what happens after you walk through. Here is what I want you to do right now. Place your hand on your heart. Take one slow breath. And say this in your mind, not out loud. I am the one the message was written for. I release the need to wait for permission. I say yes to the frequency. Let that settle. Let it land in your body. Do not rush past it. The council has been watching. The 3 factors are aligning. The readiness is present. The alignment is forming. The clearing has begun. And the next 72 hours will determine whether the activation takes root or fades back into dormancy. You are not here by accident. You are not reading this by coincidence. The algorithm did not choose you. The frequency recognized itself in you and pulled you here. And now the only question is, will you say yes? The assignment is waiting. The tools are ready. The window is open. Walk. For those whose spirit confirmed the yes, type the word activated in the comments below. Let your witness be visible. Let the frequency recognize itself in other carriers. And if this message landed as truth, not just information, let the gesture of a like seal your acknowledgement. The doors are below. The genius wave. The prosperity frequency. The complete restoration. Choose the path your body confirms. And walk it all the way through. You are the frequency made flesh. The assignment is live. The hour is now. Walk.